Dianna Carol Keeton was born on February 12, 1958. By August of 2003, 45-year-old Dianna was a mother of 4 living in Martha, Kentucky. She was also a nurse working at a nursing home 30 minutes north in Grayson. On the morning of August 28th, the fog was especially dense as Dianna headed to work. Unfortunately, she would never arrive. Around 7 a.m., a family on Rock House School Road found her body lying behind her car. Apparently, she had pulled off to the side of the road, got out, and walked to the back of her car. That's when someone shot her with a .410 shotgun. It's likely she was murdered by someone she knew, and somehow they convinced her to pull over. Fingerprints and DNA were taken from the crime scene, but so far haven't matched anyone. Investigators believe her murder was premeditated and are hoping someone will come forward with a tip that could break the case wide open. However, as of 2024, Dianna's murder remains unsolved. I would like to start by saying thank you to June's Journey for sponsoring today's video. June's Journey is a hidden object mystery mobile game set in the 1920s with beautiful glamour scenes and a riveting story. The game is completely free to download and very relaxing. In the evenings when I'm winding down, I love to play phone games, especially June's Journey, because it places me in a simple, beautiful, fun decade that I could only imagine living in. I've even got my daughter playing it now. Y'all would like it because it's a mystery type game. You're looking for hidden items, which are the clues that will help you solve the overall crime. Playing the game is not only relaxing, but we could probably all agree that sometimes fiction is better than real life, especially when mystery storylines are involved. Part of the game even includes fun decorating, and it is exciting to master new levels and earn coins. Remember, it is completely free to download on your phone or tablet, and even on your desktop through Facebook. Join the more than 30 million others that play this game by clicking the links to download it in the description box below. Greta Renee Henson was born to coal miner Shirley and his wife Josephine on September 27, 1967. Greta grew up in a devout Pentecostal family and made religion a priority in her life. After meeting a pastor from North Carolina at a tent revival, she and her family began driving 185 miles every weekend to a church in North Carolina. She was so straight-laced that a friend recalled her leaving a party once because some people started smoking marijuana. After high school, Greta got a job at Roland Chevrolet as a title clerk. By early 1992, 24-year-old Greta was living in Middlesboro, Kentucky, in an olive green mobile home she purchased, and was still working at Roland Chevrolet. She was described as a kind, gentle woman who loved to make candy such as peanut butter fudge. Just before Christmas in 1991, she broke up with a boyfriend she had been seeing for about 9 months. That's when she met Argene Fuston, who worked at a local auto parts store. Greta was a regular at her parents' home for dinner, typically arriving around 5:15 on most evenings. However, on Monday, January 6th, something was different. Her mother recalled that Greta seemed a little scared of something, saying she had a funny look on her face all evening. It probably wasn't helped by the fact that her trailer had been broken into 2 nights earlier, and since nothing was taken, she didn't report it to the police. Her father fixed her door and suggested she place a wooden chair against it for protection. After dinner, she returned home, never to be seen alive again. Greta usually never missed a day of work, but had told coworkers she might be a little late. So when she failed to show up on the morning of January 7th, no one thought much about it. She had just bought a new TV and planned to stop at the cable company to inquire about getting service. Greta's friend, who was teaching her guitar, called the car dealership to confirm their lesson time. That's when she learned that Greta never showed up. Concerned, she called Greta's parents, who decided to check on her. When they arrived at her trailer, they found the door kicked in and the chair she used to wedge the door broken. When they went inside, they shockingly found her dead on the living room floor. She had been bound with wire ties, strangled, and shot to death execution style. The gun that she owned was missing, along with a jewelry box. Investigators would later say there were no signs of a break-in, which the family found strange because they had seen the break-in for themselves. Witnesses reported seeing a 1980s beige or off-white pickup truck with a white plywood dog box in the back with two moon-shaped dog entrances parked at her mobile home between noon and 1 p.m. on the day her body was found. As far as I'm aware, that truck has never been located. At the time of her murder, multiple suspects were looked into, but nobody was ever arrested. Unfortunately, as of May 2024, her case remains unsolved. In August of 2019, 32-year-old Krista Nicole Garrett was living in Prestonsburg, Kentucky, and was described as shy and quiet. Unfortunately, she had a history of drug abuse, and because she wasn't very social, she didn't have many friends. On August 30th, 2019, Krista's family saw her walking near the Marathon gas station on Kentucky Highway 114. A witness then saw her get into an unknown vehicle. A little over a month later, she called a family member from a church phone saying she was ready for rehab. However, after hanging up, Krista was never seen or heard from again by her family. By Christmas of that year, her family began to realize something was seriously wrong. They began checking with rehab facilities and jails, but no signs of her were found. Prior to her disappearance, she was involved with a man named Jeff Blackburn, who was mentioned in the case of Candy Gonzalez, which I covered back in 2022. Candy went missing on June 1st, 2021, after Blackburn allegedly kicked her out. This was about 2 years after Krista disappeared, about the same amount of time that she and Blackburn had been together. It's even thought that Blackburn was dating both women at one point. After he kicked her out, she wandered onto some property on Abbott Creek Road, where she asked the owners to call her mother.
Listen, I don't know where you're going, but you need to get out of this yard. Walk along the highway. Huh? Keiko can see her from the ring. Oh, okay. Keiko knows what's going on already. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what you're doing, but you need to call your mother. I will call your mother for you. Happily. Where's your mom? Listen, I have your daughter.
Is that a truck camera? Yeah. That's a truck camera. No, there's a truck camera on that tree, I think.
Listen, I need you to calm down. I can help you, but you need to tell me what's going on. I'll happily help you. I'm calling your mom for you. What the hell? Thank you. I need you to get out of this yard or come talk to me. One of the two. Don't play on me. You are on our land. I need to understand why. I need you not to mess with their crops.
Okay, she gonna get the creek.
Look here.
Hey, watch out, there's snakes down there.
Unfortunately, the call went to voicemail, causing Candy to flee into the woods. A few weeks after I featured her case, Candy's remains were found not far from where she was last seen, but the cause of death is unknown. As for Krista, the family has been told a couple of different stories regarding what possibly happened to her. They openly admit that she was an addict and that there is the possibility she overdosed and the person she was with hid her body. Unfortunately, it's now been over 3 years since she was last seen, and as of May 2024, this case remains unsolved. Lois Jean Trent was born the eldest of 6 siblings on October 25, 1939, to parents Alicia and Roxy Rogers, who ran the Rogers Cafe in Whitesburg, Kentucky. After her first husband died, she raised her 4 kids as a single woman until she met and married Jack Trent. They remained together until November 29, 2021, when 82-year-old Jack sadly passed away from a long-time illness. 82-year-old Lois was described as an amazing individual who was never afraid of hard work and would always help others in need. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks after her husband passed away, her life was tragically cut short. On December 12, 2021, a little after 3 p.m., her son Jack stopped by her house and shockingly found her dead, lying in a pool of blood. At 3:17 p.m., he called 911. When investigators arrived, they determined her death was the result of foul play and sent her body off for an autopsy. However, the results have not been released to the public. Interestingly, on April 9, 1989, Lois's first husband found a deceased man inside the barn he rented to store his tobacco in from his tobacco farm. The man had been murdered and his hands removed from his body. To this day, the man has never been identified. No connection has been found between Jack's discovery and Lois's murder. Unfortunately, there is little information on this case, and as of May 2024, her murder remains unsolved. Valeri Camille Brooks was born in Versailles, Kentucky on June 8, 1968, to parents Glenn and Karen. She attended Woodford County High School, but dropped out in the 11th grade to get married. However, the marriage wouldn't last, and after the divorce, they began sharing custody of their son, Andrew. Her parents owned the Bluegrass Kennel, but when Karen's mother died at the end of 1988, they sold the business and made plans to move far away. With Valeri on board, they all moved to Connecticut in July of 1989. However, Valeri wasn't happy with the move and wanted to be back in Versailles. So in March of 1990, she moved back and began living with her boyfriend, Edward Golforth, and their son, Chase, while her other son, Andrew, lived with his father in Lexington. In December of 1990, 22-year-old Valeri was working at the Thornton gas station on Lexington Road when tragedy struck. On New Year's Eve, December 31, 1990, while working her scheduled shift, a coworker asked if Valeri could stay to cover the next shift as well. She said yes and ended up working alone that night. Around 1:40 a.m., police were notified that the robbery alarm was going off at the store. When they arrived, Valeri was nowhere to be found. This was a regular stop for officers who wanted to grab a cup of coffee, and some had just been there not long before the alarm went off. Hours later, at around 6:50 a.m., a man driving to work spotted her body along a private drive 9 miles south of Versailles. She had sadly been sexually assaulted and stabbed to death. Whoever murdered Valeri also took $230 from the store. The very next night, David Rowe was working the night shift when the store was robbed again. A witness came forward by the name of Kent Queen and said they saw a man talking on the payphone next to Thornton's around 1:15 a.m., but that man has never been identified. In 1996, investigators began looking at an inmate by the name of William Glenn Rogers. They believe Rogers had family in the area and had even lived there around the time Valeri was murdered. They tested his DNA, but it was not a match. It turns out they actually had the wrong guy. The actual man with ties to the area was serial killer Glenn Edward Rogers, aka cross-country killer, not William Glenn Rogers. Glenn Rogers is currently on death row in Florida for the fatal stabbing of 34-year-old Tina Cribbs. He was also convicted of murder in California and is a suspect in several homicides in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Kentucky. Rogers also claimed he was the one who murdered Nicole Brown Simpson and not O.J. Investigators had his DNA in 2013 and were planning on testing it, but the outcome is unknown. Considering it's now been 11 years since her murder, Rogers was most likely ruled out. Investigators believe whoever murdered Valeri was either from Versailles or knew it well, especially considering her body was found in such a rural area. Valeri's brother Michael believes that his sister was either murdered by an out-of-town construction worker, someone part of a wealthy family in the area, a family member of law enforcement, or a law enforcement officer who knew Valeri. He believes his sister would have willingly left the store with an officer, not even thinking twice about it. There's also the fact that an officer at the local police department was overheard years later saying, and I quote, "Valeri got what she deserved." He ultimately believes that the Versailles Police Department is covering up for someone. They have male DNA from the crime scene and are being asked to send it off for forensic genetic genealogy, but that hasn't been done yet. As of 2024, her killer has not been found, and this case remains unsolved. Join the more than 30 million others that play this game by clicking the links to download it in the description box below.